What is going on? You know what time it is? It is time for another episode of Damien Ruins Horror Movies. I'm Damien, and tonight's movie is The Mutilator. And the episode is brought to you by Cool Dude Inc. And if you go to the description, there's a link below you can click on. You can check out some t-shirts, mention my name, and get 10% off. And they're already about $10 cheaper than the average places like Gutter Garbs and should I be throwing these guys under the bus? I don't know. And Fright Rags. So check it out. It's free to look. And if you enjoy these videos, like, subscribe, share. That always helps. And why don't we just get on with it? Tonight's movie is The Mutilator. It's a 1984 classic directed by Buddy Cooper. And it opens up, there's a woman decorating a cake. The cake is for Ed Sr. There's a little boy, Ed Jr. He decides that for his dad's birthday, he's going to clean all of his guns for him. But what Ed Jr. doesn't realize is that Daddy keeps all his guns loaded. So little Ed Jr. shoots and kills his mother. And shortly after that, Ed Sr. gets home. And he's a little pissed. And he smacks Ed Jr. around a little bit. And then he drags his wife's lifeless corpse into the other room. Pours himself a whiskey. And then he gives her something like the way my daughter would play with her dolls. He's just puts up to her mouth and pretends she's drinking it with them. Then he just kind of stares off into space. Next, we fast forward X amount of years. It does not say how many years have passed, but it's obvious that time has passed. And now Ed Jr. is grown up. And he's in a bar. I don't know how old the characters in this movie are supposed to be, because I think in the description it said they're teenagers, but they're hanging out in a bar, and it ain't the fucking 70s. This movie came out in 1984. So if you're hanging out in a bar, but they're college age. So I don't know. I think they look legal. But they're in a bar and the phone rings, and there's a message to Ed Jr. to call his estranged father, Ed Sr. So he calls him back, and suddenly, him and his group of friends have plans for fall break. What the hell is fall break? That sounds like a Canadian thing, if I'm going to be honest. I've never heard of fall break. Here in the States, we have spring break. It takes place in April. There's no fall break. There'd be no point in fall break. Maybe school starts in fall. What, are you going to go to school for 3 weeks and you need a fucking break already? What is fall break? So there's this hokey song that gets played throughout this movie that really just strips away the horror element, because it's just this feel good. I put a link in the notes so you can click on it and watch it. It's a great song. It just doesn't belong in a horror movie. It's not a great song. But now he and his friends got a plan for fall break. Road trip to the condo, because Ed Jr. somehow owes his dad a favor and has to go to his beach condo, and close it down for the winter. Shut everything off and all that. Don't all of our parents have a condo? Are you one of those weirdos where your parents only have one house? And the characters it's three couples. There's Ed and Pam, Ed Jr., Ralph and Sue, and Linda and Mike. And somehow the six of them fit into a small convertible comfortably, and whatever age they are, they stop by the store, they buy beers, they drink the whole way down there. Which I think if you're drinking and driving, maybe not do it in a convertible. It's kind of conspicuous. I kind of see, just by looking, I can just see everything going on in the car. You can't just, especially with six people, you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to take a drink. Every 5 minutes. Why don't you just wait till you get to the place? When they get there, the condo is wide open, and it looks like there's a party. It looks like a frat party broke out and exploded all over the place. There's liquor bottles, beer cans, all kind of shit. It's not a big surprise that his dad is a trophy hunter. And there's animal heads all over. Like, every wall is covered with dead animals. Some of his animal heads mounted, like you're used to seeing, like the deer in the hunting room and that kind of shit. But then there's also to the point of like taxidermy, where there's like stuffed dead animals. There's fish. And I'm not surprised that, in the opening, he's cleaning his dad's loaded rifles. So it's like he's hunting something. And a little foreshadowing moment, Ed Jr. points out and says that his dad has hunted everything but man. Dun dun. They see a mount on a wall where there's a missing battle axe. Little do they know, and here's an early spoiler, and I know, I'm trying to get better about announcing spoilers, but that's why I do older movies. Okay, you've had, 36 years to watch this movie? Don't get mad at me for uncovering shit you didn't. It's like, oh no! I've been meaning to watch it. It's in my queue. No. Oh, and by the way, you can watch this movie on Tubi. Damn it, I knew I'd forget something. Tubi party tonight. But little do they know, Ed Sr. could have closed the condo down himself if he really wanted to, because he's there. He's in the garage. He's hiding out. And the missing battle axe, it's not missing. It's in his hands. He's waiting. He knew his son would jump at the chance of fall break to come down to the condo and party it up. And then close it down for the winter. Ed Sr. has been plotting his revenge against his son for the last however much time has passed since the incident. Which is really kind of strange, because you could have killed him when you came home and found your wife's corpse. You could have killed him any time between now and whatever X equals between then and now. You could have killed him that you knew you wanted to. And how do you name your son after you and then hate the little prick? I think Ed Sr. had some problems long before his wife was killed. Night hits and Mike and Linda decide to go skinny dipping down at the pool. Cue the piano music. I wish I had piano music I could play. And more music in this film. There's like no scary music in this film whatsoever. And then Linda gets pulled under, and you're kind of thinking, because her and Mike are playing around, so it's like, oh, it's just Mike pulling her down. But no, it's not Mike. It's fucking Ed Sr. going for his first kill. And he does. He pulls her down. He drowns her. And then it's kind of weird, because, like, he sneaks into the pool, kills her, carries her away, along with most of their clothes, because they're skinny dipping. And all the while, Mike is just swimming oblivious. He has no idea what's going on. He's like, oh, she must be. It's like, are you just underwater the whole time? It's like you didn't hear I mean, the pool's not that big. I don't know. It's kind of. So anyway, Mike follows the trail of clothes that leads him back to the garage, where Big Ed is waiting for him with, like, it's not a chainsaw, but it's like it's like a gas-powered gardening tool that'll fucking kill you. The others look for Mike and Linda until they run into a cop. The cop warns them to be careful, and then he calls in a possible 1038, which I have no idea what the fuck that is. You're going to have to Google that yourself, because I don't give a shit. This is one of those movies where it's like, face value. I'm not looking for hidden meaning. But the cop should have probably heeded his own advice, because he gets back to the condo and he gets decapitated by Big Ed with his big old battle axe. Big Ed is seemingly everywhere. Is it poetic that he's killing people with a battle axe? Isn't that how some husbands, especially back then, used to refer to their wives? As, oh, the old battle axe is coming home. Or was that just about their in-laws? I don't know. Either way. On the cover, there's a gaff, big fish hook. And he's so far doing the majority of his killing with the battle axe. I think there's a hidden message in there. His battle axe got killed, so he kills people with a battle axe. Yeah. This movie's not stupid. It knows what it's doing. The remaining four go back to the condo. And although they're worried sick about their friends, Mike and Linda, who are nowhere to be found. Still, they have no reason to believe that they're dead. They decide they're going to play a game called Blind Man's Bluff. I don't know if this is a real game or not. I've never played it. I've never heard of it outside of this movie. I didn't look into it because I don't give a shit. If you played it, hit me up in the notes. Tell me if it's fun or not, because it doesn't sound fun. It sounds like grown-up hide-and-seek, but lame. It sounds like the worst drinking game ever. Because basically, all the lights go out. One person is it. The person who is it stays in the house, and everybody else goes outside and drinks some beer. And when the beer's done, they go back into the house, and whoever finds the person who's it lays next to him, and then the next person that finds him lays next to him until there's one person left. I know. Sue is it, and they drink their beer outside, and they go in. Pam finds her first, then Ralph, and Ed Jr. Ed Jr.'s the last, but they don't realize that Ed Sr. is playing too. Dun, dun, dun. I'm not doing that right. Dun, dun, dun! And Ed Jr. inadvertently saves everybody just before Ed Sr. is ready to attack. They play one round of that, and then it's time to go night-night. Pam won't have sex with Ed Jr. And Ralph and Sue are about to get it on, but then she's like, hey, nobody locked up. So Ralph and his weird chest hair go down the stairs and to go lock up alone. And he decides to go outside one last time for a look for Mike and Linda, which is kind of weird because at this point it's like, why? Like, either they're dead, which you have no reason to believe that that's the case, or they're not coming back. And if you lock them out, they'll bang on the door. Like, there's no reason to think that, like, fuck, if I lock this door, then they're fucked. They're not. They'll ring the doorbell, or they'll knock on the door, or whatever. They'll throw rocks at your window. They'll figure out a way to get back in. They'll sleep in the car. The car, the top does go up. But then he goes into the garage, and that's where he meets Ed Sr. And he gets a pitchfork to the throat. The kill scenes in this movie are not bad at all. And this movie seems a little low budget. It seems a lot older than it is. I should look into it because I do not think this movie was filmed in 1984. It might have been released in 84, and I'm sure if some people that watch this, if this is the first video of mine that you watch it, you're watching it because you love this movie. I'm sure you're gonna be like shaking your fists like, what the fuck? How do you not know that Fall Break came out in 1977? I don't know. I don't do a lot of research on movies. I do, some I don't. This one, as kind of uneventful as this movie is, for some reason I like it. But as far as reviewing it, I was like, when it was time to do it, I was like, I watched it and I was excited about it. And I was like, I don't know. There's really nothing funny to pull out of this movie. It kind of like, it's very just, we did this, then we did this, then we did this, and this happened. The end. It's not, it's not a nail biter. But it's still, I don't know, I like it anyway. At this point, though, there's 20 minutes left of the film, and so far, he hasn't gaffed anybody. Do you know what gaffing people is? Because I didn't until I watched this movie. Gaff is a big fish hook that's on the cover of this movie. That's why I'm pointing it out, because it's like, why didn't you have a battle axe on the movie? That's what he used the most. And I guess he didn't really use it the most. He just had it around the most. Because so far, the kills, he's used a different weapon for every kill. Sue gets tired of waiting for Ralph and kind of worries because now, if Ralph doesn't come back soon, that's 3 people missing. Is something going on? Nobody has a reason to believe that. But somehow, Pam gets some kind of premonition and she wakes up. And she checks on the others that are missing. Meanwhile, like, Ed Jr. is just passed the fuck out. For whatever reason. Because, like, nobody... As much as they drink in this movie, nobody ever acts like they're drunk. It's like they're doing what I would call they're drinking responsibly. Everybody seems within their wits the whole time. We don't have any there isn't like a total douchebag character. The douchebag character, the closest thing we get is Mike. He's like the prankster. But even he doesn't stick around long enough to really be like, oh, I hope he dies first. Although he did die first. Sue returns and Pam is like, she's like, Ed Jr., wake up. We're getting out of here. Which is a smart thing to do. And it sucks. It's that thing. I've pointed this out in a lot of slasher movies. It sucks when you're not, when you have to escape, but you don't know if the missing people need your help or if they're already dead. I mean, it's one thing to be like, okay, we found their bodies. We found all 3 of their dead bodies. Now we can get the fuck out of here and not feel like assholes. There's no bodies. They're just pretty sure. It's like Pam just kind of pulled some Star Wars shit and was like, I got a bad feeling about this. We're getting out of here. It's not that Sue agrees with Pam. Pam has just like made it clear. It's like, I'm leaving. Who's coming with me? Whoever doesn't come with me is stuck here. I'll be in the car. She kind of laid it down like that. That's what you got to do. You got to be stern. If you're going to be a final girl, you can't be a bitch. So Sue's like, okay, but can we take one last look? I'm like, all right. And for some reason they split up. Why the fuck can't the 3 of you look together? So Sue goes on her own. Pam and Ed Jr., it's almost like they didn't really look at all. They're like, okay, we'll look for them. We're going to go see if they're in the car. Oh, what do you know? They're not. I guess we'll just wait here. It's not exactly what they did. But Sue gets gaffed. She basically gets raped with the gaff. Because Ed Sr. finds her and he's just like hooking the shit out of her. He hook. And she's in the garage where she dies. And this is why it's like, why'd you guys split up? Because now Ed Jr. and Pam make their way into the garage where Sue is. Where it's like, if you're going to cover the same ground, cover it together. Because now Sue's dead. And they start finding the bodies hanging in like the little other room in the garage. And they're like, oh shit, there's a killer. And like Ed Sr. and Ed Jr. go toe to toe. And Ed Sr. whoops his ass and knocks him out. And like Ed Jr. doesn't register who it is attacking him, apparently. Pam charges Ed Sr. She's got a knife and she's just like stabs him. Just effortlessly kills him. He's just like, oh. And granted, I mean, he's just a regular guy. He's not possessed. He's not back from the dead. He's not, he didn't drown in a lake. He wasn't lit on fire. He didn't go to a mental ward for 15 years and come back. He's just a regular dude who dies. They go to the car and then the car won't start. Because the engine's flooded, which is like, I don't know shit about cars. I'm gonna preface this, because there was a moment earlier in the movie where they tried to start the car and say, hey, the car won't start, and then it started. So it's like the foreshadowing of like, hey, if we really need this car later, it ain't gonna start. Okay, it might not start, but it doesn't flood unless you're pumping the gas while you're starting it, like too much. It's not a problem now because like fuel injection and shit like that, I think. But back then it was a problem. But you don't just. I mean, I guess it could. Like if there was something wrong with the car, I don't know. But it was still like, how did you flood the fucking car already? You flooded it the first time you turned the key. What were you just like? Did you just have your foot on the gas? You're like, should I put the key in now? And it's like, wouldn't be revving because it's not on, but it's just like letting fuel. I don't know. But it turns out Ed Sr. is not really dead. And he jumps on the top of the car. And he's like, he's got his battle axe again. And he's like stabbing the drop top. And he reaches in. It's like, tries to choke out, Ed Jr. Pam, like, pushes the car lighter in. She has the wherewithal to be like, oh, I know what to do. I'll push the car lighter in. Because his hand, Ed Sr.'s hand's right next to her face. So she pushes that in and it dings. Car lighters, actually, if you're younger, you probably don't realize that. You probably don't know that cars used to have lighters in them, and you push them in, and you could light your cigarettes with them. Now, that's called your auxiliary plug-in. That used to be where your lighter went, your car lighter. So she stabs him in the hand with the lighter, and it burns him. And then the car miraculously starts, and she starts driving, and Ed's kind of slipping Ed Senior is kind of slipping around. So she's like, oh, he's in a bad position where it's like he's kind of falling off. He's like on the back of the car, like holding on, and finally he's at the point where like he's like holding on, and his legs are kind of dragging. So she just backs up really fast into like a cinder block wall and severs him in half. And part of me is thinking, it's like, well, there's only so fast you can go in reverse. But at the same time, it's like, cars are heavy, and people probably don't realize, like, it doesn't take a lot of speed to just, like, really ruin your fucking day if you get smashed by one. And she cuts him clean in half. Like, his upper body's here, his lower body's here. And then the useless horror movie cops show up just when everything's pretty much over. And it's about this point, for some reason, Ed Jr. went toe-to-toe with Ed Sr. without realizing that was his dad. It like doesn't sink in until he sees him dying. He's like, oh my God, that's my dad. And it all kind of registers like he set me up. He was planning to kill me. And he killed my friends. And then like one of the cops walks up and he's like, but Ed Sr.'s still alive, and like hacks his leg off with the bat. He's just an upper body. His legs are over there. Somehow he gets enough leverage that he can swing his battle axe, it's still in his hands, and chop off the cop's leg. Then he dies. Next scene is a hospital. Ed Jr. wakes up, walks down the hall to Pam, puts his hand on her shoulder. He's like, there. And she's like, oh. Snuggles it like it's a telephone. And that's the end of the movie. The end. I know. The Badass Award goes to Pam for saying no to sex, which is important in a horror movie. She also stabbed Big Ed, then chopped him in half with the car, and in the process saved little Ed. What did we learn? Survival tales. Put a lock on your gun cabinet, or at least unload your guns before you store them. Don't go outside alone at night. And never split up. Unless there's more than 3 of you. Even then, don't. That's it for tonight's episode, guys. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. Remember to subscribe and like and share with all your friends. Good night. I'll see you next week. That's the shittiest outro ever.
I'm feeling alright. I'm feeling alright. I pull out my shovel and my pink flashlight. My pink flashlight. I dig you out so one by one, and I don't stop till the break of dawn. I take you back to my laboratory when I plan my revenge, bringing back the dead. Bringing back the dead. Whoa! I turn on my nuclear reactor just to give you life, to give you life. I had this fascination since I was about 5. Since I was 5. I leash you all on society. The world will finally taste my fury. I hope you don't mind to get a little gory. The day comes through your town, bringing back the dead. Bringing back the dead. Whoa! Is any wonder why I hate you so? When I dig your body out and steal your soul, I take your body back to my laboratory, where I plan my revenge, bringing back the dead. Bringing back the dead. Whoa! I watch as all of you are eaten alive, eaten alive. I laugh as all of you scream out my name, curse out my name. and all your loved ones rise from the grave.